Hello and welcome to the Brand Forum. I'm Jeremy Bloom. With me, my co-host, Josh Palau.
Hello, hello.
We are so excited to dive deep into the world of advertising, media, and marketing through an insider's lens via the Brand Forum. We're going to cover the people who strategize and spend on moving the needle. You, the marketer. With us today, we've got a great guest. I'm really excited to talk with this guest. She's already smiling. She's laughing as we talk. We've got Sarah Harms, the VP of Ad Measurement and Marketing at Roku. Sarah and her team are responsible for telling the Roku advertising story and showing it with Roku's amazing data using both scaled, one-to-many strategies, but also creative, bespoke, one-to-one strategies in support of their broad customer base. Sarah's about 7 months into this new role, and before this, she's had leadership positions at Microsoft Xandr and Group M. Sarah and Josh go way back to her Group M days, where Josh was her delightful client. And they share a love for geeking out over ad tech, Philadelphia, and empowering women. Sarah, please.
Thank you for having me.
I'm just going to get out of the way. Well, again, born and raised New Yorker, so this way I don't get the hate from that side. So yes, I do. I've lived in Pennsylvania. I do enjoy Philadelphia, and yes, we do have a Philly connection. Though I don't know that anybody would describe me as a delightful client. So I appreciate you doing that.
I think your daughters went to the same high school as my sister, so we have that kind of New Hope connection.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Wow. It's a small world, and it's a small school, so that's really small.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, thanks for joining us. We're very excited. I think you already know this. Like, I'm a giant fan of Roku, the device, and you guys as a company. But I think every TV in my house has a Roku attached to it. I love it, and so I'm excited to talk to you more about the brand and sort of how you break through, because as I've heard the story of Roku, it's, sometimes it's not the easiest thing for people to understand. And so, like, to kick off with, like, I guess the most direct question is like how are you guys defining that brand story, and like what elements are successful that you find need to be successful to have a good brand story?
Yeah. Well, thank you for being a fan of Roku's. Our entire household has Roku TVs, and I think the Roku proposition as a TV product is simple. And so we try to mirror that. I think simplicity is key whenever you can in such a crowded ecosystem, in service of who these clients are actually very, by the way, busy. And so making sure you have a simple, profound strategy with key touch points that you capitalize on in the time, because there's plenty of opportunity for missed boats in this day and age. And there's plenty of opportunity to confuse them. And so, to your point, sometimes the Roku story and the Roku advertising story isn't simple. And so, as long as we make a very key effort to simplify it in this crowded ecosystem, like, that's a lot of my job and my focus.
Can you simplify it for us and for our listeners and viewers, Sarah? That'd be super simple.
Sure. So Josh is a Roku TV owner. Jeremy, are you?
I am.
Great.
I have a device. I take a step. I have a device. I have a Roku device on one of my TVs. I don't.
That's fine. That's fine.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's fine. That all counts. And we continue to see devices growing and going into different non-Roku televisions. And so that even says even more about just how simple and how great television is through the lens of the Roku platform. And so my job is sitting within the advertising team to talk about how we make TV better as Roku, but also how that translates to advertising. So Roku as the platform supports our own app, the Roku channel, which continues to climb the Nielsen gauge and gaining popularity through great original and licensed content. But also we have the Roku platform, which 25 days out of the month, we see 90 million households coming through our front door before they go to Netflix or Amazon or Hulu or Disney. And so we also have that advertising experience. And we increasingly see that those two media businesses are even better together. And so making sure we articulate the home screen proposition with our kind of scaled video proposition together.
Yeah. And do you think the draw, like when you think about consumers, because the other thing I feel like is different in your brand positioning is, every TV right now is a smart TV. So it's not as if so they can get to the access of their streaming services, their networks, through what they get out of the box. But yet you guys have been able to carve out a pretty significant size of the market for something that, again, technically you don't need. So like how Like, how do you guys thought about that from a brand perspective or like consumer messaging standpoint?
I mean, I think it's all about making TV better. If we don't see a customer 25 days out of the month, or we get them right into what they want to see, we're doing our job. But the reality is that people have a hard time picking content these days, and they have an even harder time finding it. And so making TV better not only means like a clean, beautiful interface that's easy to use, but also helping curate content to make it discoverable and to help consumers find where the Yankees game is on this week, stuff like that. As more and more content comes into these platforms, it just gets complicated. And so people use our search functionality every day to find where Bluey is or the Super Mario Brothers movie is. That might be.
I was just saying, you have young kids for the record. Yeah.
But it's so true that just TV is complicated. It's so different from back in the day with like 3 broadcast networks or even just the start of streaming. Now there's AVOD in every form on every streaming channel. And so it is complicated. And so if we can help make it less complicated, both as Roku as the television platform, but also as the advertising proposition, we're doing a great job.
So like, I guess if you could spend a few minutes talking about the landscape, like what are the biggest challenges today in building a brand? And it's, if I could add to that, like part of the question comes from the basis of this podcast, which is we wanted to spend more time talking with brand marketers and not talking about ad tech. But I think the challenges you face, in building a brand in this ad tech driven world is challenging. And so like, what are the challenges that you're sort of seeing as you think about building the Roku brand?
I think because the space is complicated and there's always new definitions and new players entering the space and new acronyms and new ways to buy, I think it's just making sure your brand proposition is clear and you keep up with the changes so they know what you are and who you are throughout those changes. And so that's a lot of my job today, where a lot of our customers think of Roku as an ad network. That's completely inaccurate at this point, but that means we haven't convinced them otherwise by getting them in front of us with key moments and touch points throughout the year and key, clear, simple messaging. And that's a function of it was COVID, it was hard, it was different, it was complicated. And so I think that's just a big focus of clarifying our differentiation, but also make sure we are clear with what we are and keep clients informed of that throughout the year and the next year, et cetera.
Hi, I'm Jacqueline Keller, Comscore CMO, and I'm here with Sam Mark, one of our commercial leaders, host of Dishing with Divas. Here, we've got a full course ahead. So Sam, what's on the menu?
I'll be inviting data divas from across the industry to sit at the table with me. Together, we'll take a bite of today's biggest challenges from linear TV to programmatic pipes. Soup to nuts, if you will.
Yeah.
We'll get into DSPs, DMPs, SSPs, CTV, SVOD, AVOD, SaaS, DAS, FAST, quality and performance guaranteed.
Well, that's a mouthful. Sounds like it's going to be sweet and spicy.
Savory too. We're going to help folks take home that bacon.
So you'll be writing a new recipe in each brand forum drop?
Yes, it's going to be a really divine treat. We'll be like 2 peas in a pod.
Nothing half-baked. Well, except for cookies. We've been adjusting the heat on those since 2020.
We're looking at cookies crumbling and hotcakes selling.
Sounds like kids, divas, in a candy store.
Promise. We'll have our cake and eat it too. And there's even icing on that cake.
Sam, this is ridiculously cheesy.
Diva dish with a cherry on top.
I'm sure it'll measure up. Can't wait.
It sounds like you've got a lot on your plate, but it's exciting stuff. And you guys are absolutely one of the top names in our industry. What are some of your favorite brands? Is your built like, let's make this a little bit more fun and not just grill you on all things ad tech and Roku. Like when you wake up in the morning, when you're going to bed at night, when you're going throughout the day, like, what are the brands that you're thinking about that make you tick? And what some of the psychology or branding components of the feels and the vibes throughout the day that just make you think like, all right, this is my brand?
The one that always comes to mind is Nike, as like an athlete and someone that is a big purchaser of Nike products. My husband's a sneakerhead. We're trying to make our kids sneakerheads. I think it's just, we're so loyal to Nike for really unclear reasons, but no matter what, like it's kind of our brand as like a family and as Sarah. And so I think it's the simplicity. I think it's the messaging. I think it's them showing up as a brand, empowering women and just like changing the narrative. And so that one always rises to the top for me. And maybe that's kind of a common answer, but that also shows they're doing a great job.
Yeah, I always find that's the and you never want to like box anybody in. But when we pulled up that question, and it was sort of like I wondered if we should say, okay, but you can't say Nike and Apple because there's but that big, but it's well, and I would say this though, like it's unfair to pull that out. Plus, you had a good answer to that, and as a fellow Nike person, like yeah, I mean, it's not unclear to me why, but what I spend against it, is unclear. Like, or, and to your point, like it's just, there's a connection there, that goes back to when I was a kid. And so like, I think that's just what good brands do and what they make them stick is there's some sort of connection.
All right. I'm going to throw in a curveball. Give us an up and comer. Give us an up and comer brand that you love, that you feel an affiliation with. Both of you.
Do you want to go first?
No, because I don't have one right now.
Up and coming anymore.
But let's go with the non one.
If you see, like if I had a 360 view of my room, you'd see my Peloton right there. And I don't think they're perfect. And I think that's been a lot in the news, but this thing got me through COVID and 2 pregnancies, and it keeps me sane. Yeah. And it's just something that I think has made my life profoundly better. And I hope everything good happens with Peloton because I profoundly love the brand and the product and the mission and everything it's done for me.
Cool. Yeah, I have a cop out one, but it's okay. I think I have two actually. I'll give you. I wear this sweatshirt from this brand called New York or Nowhere, which I just sort of discovered a few years ago.
I didn't realize that was the acronym. I love that website. Yeah. It's great.
And it's like they've got and so first and foremost, as I mentioned earlier, this is not me trying to suppress the living in Pennsylvania, but it's just like growing up in Manhattan. Like yes, like it's sort of that thing, and I remember like. Yeah, and it's just sort of like this connection I have is just growing up, and they do a really nice job of like the material's great. Like they hook up to things like the marathon, the U.S. Open, like they connect with very like New York things. Now, by the way, like when they have a special collab like they had with the Yankees, it's incredible. You can't get anything. It sells out so quickly. And it's not the cheapest thing in the world, so I don't own a lot of their clothing, but this is to me, they're a brand that sort of gets it. Like, hey, like we're New York. We're 4 New Yorkers who are either here or who have come here. And I sort of like that they put together.
We're taking our son Otis to his first Knicks game on Monday.
Oh, nice.
So we'll see how that goes. But like they have the hats there, they have the shirts at MSG, and it's like great. It's aesthetic. It's cool. It's not like the logo, but it's repping New York. So I have a New York or Nowhere hat. I also think Aura is really doing a great job. I don't know if you guys have an Aura ring, but
I just ordered one actually.
I'm thinking of getting my husband one.
I just tried one on this week. I just ordered it. Yeah.
Yeah. So my husband is like, wedding ring only, no other jewelry, but it provides so much value. And yeah, exactly. So I'm thinking of getting him one. So you'll have to report back, Jeremy. But again, like it's aesthetic, it's clean, it provides value to me, and it tells me if I'm getting sick, and it tells me if I'm overdoing it, and that's far too often. But
I love that you brought up Peloton and Aura, because it goes to something else that we wanted to talk about, just in terms of trends or technologies that you think are shaping the future of brand building. And so when you talked about Nike, you talked about Peloton, you talked about Aura, there's a lot of health right there. Josh was talking about different athletic wear and fashion that has a lot to do with his personal identity, his childhood, his cultural upbringing. So help us just lean in, and for the listeners too, just a bit more of what tech or trends you see that are going to shape our future of brand building.
Well, you said it just then. You said it's personal. And so I think you're going to roll your eyes, audience, but like AI is doing that for us. And so with Roku, it is using AI to recommend content that's different for me than different from Josh, different from Jeremy. But if you take that lens of just personalization, applying that to what I'm doing in my job of how do we speak to a holding company different from an emerging brand, different from an indie agency, different from a platform? And so I just think there's big brand building, but increasingly you get loyalty through personalization. And I think that's where AI will help us, whether it be tailored messaging at scale, content recommendation at scale. And so, yes, yawn, eye roll, but you can't not talk about it, because that's what's going to help us do this.
I do appreciate your answer tremendously, the way that you phrased it. So I agree with you. However, I do think that there could be some other trends and technologies, especially where you're sitting at Roku. Like when I think about how people consume content, I think about on the Marketecture side, working with you, working with your Roku team to help storytell specifically, working with the Roku remote. And I don't want to get too into it for different reasons, but specifically where you guys are going, the developments that you have in your pipeline, and what you guys are working on. I understand why you're going with AI. That is a good answer.
That is one answer. I mean, you helped kind of form different answers there in terms of, you're right, like our remote is the gateway to doing more cool things in TV, period. And so will you be buying jeans because you saw an ad on your TV? I don't carry a wallet anymore. I carry my phone. And I don't think we ever thought that was the case. I don't know if we ever thought we'd buy things through our TV, but if you have Pay integrated, if you have Shopify integrations, you just hit OK. Like, we're starting to think through like true shoppable television, which I think is really cool. So there's that aspect. And then just changing advertising on television. I think that's also a thing. Like, we have the platform, we have the UI, we have the innovation, we have the brand loyalty, and we will always be consumer led. But how do we start to just change that equation as well?
That was a sick answer. There we go.
Gets you out of the AI thing.
Exactly.
Okay, so when you think about your focus on the B2B sector, like how do you see the story evolving when you think about someone like myself, or really what your target audience is?
Yeah, so what's fun about my job is B2B, but so much of our customers are also clients. And so we have that opportunity to use our consumer brand, and the fact that our clients are now becoming more digital, more savvy, willing to test and learn new formats. And so our clients as consumers and our consumers as clients is really kind of a fun mix to really play into that dynamic. And so as our clients age up, it's been fun to see kind of new dynamic thinking entering the space and pushing our boundaries too. It's
kind of interesting because you're probably one of the fewer brands that transcend both. And I'm just thinking about the space that you play in. I mean, again, I know, like, I am a client of Google's, and yes, I use the search engine, but like the things that I deal with them is just different. It's just, it's an interesting spot when you think about it like that.
Yeah, it's fun. And so my scope is very much B2B, but it would be silly of me not to use our amazing consumer loyalty as part of that.
How do you end up becoming a marketer? How do you get into this industry?
I got into this industry, as a lot of people do, through a friend of a friend and a connection. And so I think that worked out well for me. I was a communications major at college, and I didn't really know what I wanted to do. And so what was great for me in my career is, from day one, I've been in programmatic. And so I just became an expert of it. And a lot of people dismiss it as remnant or low quality or just kind of a yield optimization tool for publishers. But as we all know now, it's really just our fundamental way of working. And so I've spent really kind of my whole career in that space, which was done very well for me in terms of now just being an expert in just how we buy. And so I really kind of did that at the agency, and then had different roles at Xandr and Microsoft, really in the sales space. And so really trying to drive adoption of our products. And so this role is a departure for me, but also a perfect culmination of everything I love and really what I've done in my career, which is kind of strategy, go to market, using data to inform what we do. And so again, about 7 months in, but it's just kind of the perfect role for me that I think was a surprise for anyone that was like, well, what is she doing that? But like, the more you know me and the more I talk about it, like, oh, that tracks. So it's been fun.
Yeah. So wait, I have a follow-up for the audience. The audience hasn't asked me to follow up, but I'm following up. Cause I think so like, if you could talk a little bit, you did hit it here, but like, what I do think is interesting is that pivot. And as someone who's also like shifted a little bit, I've been pretty consistent though. So I feel like when I get asked from people more early in their careers, like, their questions usually are, hey, I do this now, like, but I might want to do that. And like, how do you do that? Because I think we all know, like, sometimes you grow up in this industry as a search person, as a programmatic person, and you stay there. And by the way, you could have a wonderful career doing that. I do think there are people who have come and asked, like, but how do I get into something else though? Or how do I shift out of that, given my background? As you did that. And so like any advice that you'd have for people trying to think through their careers and how to do that?
I think always just lean into learning as much as you can, and don't just be an expert of one thing. And so if you find yourself plateauing, ask for more, ask for different, ask for new, because if you're not uncomfortable, you're not learning. And then just build cheerleaders for yourself inside and outside the organization. And so Jay Askenazi called me and I was like, what are you thinking? And then like he talked to me through, I was like, okay, this makes sense. And so he pushed me on something that I wouldn't really have considered for myself. And so I think having kind of your allies and cheerleaders in this industry is so important. It's a small industry, and that just always helped me of kind of building connections and just allies that really will help you find new and challenging things. And that's really what I was looking for. And so it's been great.
Nice. All right, good. I guess since we've been talking so much about TV, but for a fun wrap-up question, what's a TV show or movie that you're watching, or like you walk in a room, it's on the TV, and you have to stop and just watch it. Now, again, you have young kids, so you don't have that same luxury. But imagine if you had an hour to yourself.
Yeah. I don't really watch a lot of movies. I think so much of my time now is decompressing after the real job that I have as my day job, but also the second shift of kids and bedtime. And so we often find ourselves putting on New Girl or Brooklyn Nine-Nine or something that kind of just turns my brain off. But like on the totally opposite side of that coin, like if I'm on a plane, I always end up watching like the most violent movies. So like can't watch John Wick at home, but great for a plane for me. So I don't know what that says about me. I'm sure that will be studied, but this is my plane. That's just how I decompress on a plane.
It says, "Don't look over when your screen's up on a plane."
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, great. Well, this was awesome. Thank you so much, Sarah, for doing this. We really appreciate it.
Yeah. No, thanks for having me. It's been great.